267-495-4866 or DougCarnsProgram@gmail.com. That is how you can reach me. I am Doug Karns here on the Doug Karns Program alongside Joe Balcom. All right, we're talking about Ron Paul again, as we have been all night. We're finishing this audio about how, I'm not going to say that he is a 9/11 truther where he thinks the government blew up the buildings, but this, audio kind of suggests that he could be. I'm not going to say he is, but let's just listen to it.
We heard that you have questions regarding.
All right, so it's kind of hard to hear, so I'm reading the subtitles for you so you can understand it. So this kid's asking him about, I know you have some questions about, the legitimacy of 9/11. He says, and we've heard that you have questioned the government official account on 9/11. And then Ron Paul says, well, I never automatically trust anything the government does when they do an investigation. So, Joe, when I ask you, did the government have anything to do with 9/11, what would you say?
I say no.
Okay. So right off the back, you would just say no.
No.
So George Bush or the CIA or whoever didn't plant bombs in the World Trade Centers to bring them down?
No.
Okay. So that's how you would answer, right?
Exactly.
You want another try at it?
No.
Okay. That's what I thought. So Ron Paul kind of says, he kind of goes in about, I never usually trust the government about anything they say in an investigation. Okay, so then he goes on and says, because too often I think there's an area that the government covers up. So what does that even mean? Are you saying that the government could have a hand in 9/11?
I think this, I don't think he's referring directly to 9/11, but definitely in other circumstances they may have covered up. Not regarding 9/11, because this, like, 9/11 was just a huge tragedy. Mm-hmm. I don't think it would be right for the government to cover.
So you think he's just being general?
I think in general, though, there have been instances where the government has.
I'm sure about that.
So that's basically. I think that's basically what he's saying, though.
9/11's pretty clean and cut. Where, hey, these terrorists,
they hate us.
Yeah,
it's not. They wouldn't just sit back and do nothing while we destroy our own buildings.
Yeah. All right, let's see. So he says whether it's the Kennedy assassination or whatever. Okay, so that's pretty much the end of the clip there. So, okay, I guess you could say that it's, he's being general about it. But if somebody came up to me and said, I know we all think differently, we're all different human beings, but if somebody came up to me and said, we know you've had questions about, government controversies or conspiracies, how do you feel about 9/11 or whatever? I'm pretty sure they said, well, that's not a conspiracy. That was terrorists blowing up the Twin Towers. I mean, there's no other way of saying that, but he kind of, I don't know. I guess that's just maybe me assuming.
But there's tons of people out there who think the government had something to do with it.
Well, it's a fringe 10%.
Yeah, I just call
them. But that's
idiots.
what I'm saying. But would you want a president who actually?
No.
Okay. And Ron Paul has been on record saying in debates saying that we kind of helped cause 9/11, not in a way that we blew him up, but that we brought it upon ourselves.
It's because of what we did around the world.
Yeah, which
that same old.
I think we help more in the world than we do than we hurt. Granted, I don't think we should be doing a lot of this stuff, but I'm saying in general, it's usually good intentions what we do around the world.
I think all the negatives become, everybody just blows up all the negative things that we do, and it kind of overshadows all the positives that we do, as far as like giving out foreign aid and all that, even though we shouldn't, but we do.
Yeah. So, but also have a, this was from Fox News earlier, a story of Iran issuing a warning to the United States about returning a aircraft carrier to the Gulf. And let's go ahead and play this, and this kind of shows you why we need to pay attention to this kind of stuff.
A Fox News alert and keeping our eye on the Persian Gulf, mounting tensions between the U.S. and Iran. That country's army chief issues a harsh new warning, reportedly telling the U.S. not to return its aircraft carrier to the Gulf. The U.S. Navy's Fifth Fleet says the USS John C. Stennis is in the area. All this comes, of course, after the Iranian Navy test-fired a new cruise missile and 2 more shorter-range missiles on Monday near the Strait of Hormuz. That is the strategic gateway for about 1/6 of the world's oil supply. It gets shipped through there.
What happens to our oil supply if something goes down in the Strait of Hormuz? How do you say it? You always say it better than I do. What do you think happens to the oil?
Well,
if it's 1/6 of our supply,
obviously prices are going to skyrocket.
Yeah, I mean, if there's a disruption in that oil production, you're going to see gas prices soar in 4 hours.
Especially if we're not willing to drill in our own.
Yeah, I mean that's just a whole. We have enough oil here to
we can kind of
be self-sufficient,
or just end our reliance on that. But
I'm saying this is why we need to have an interest in foreign policy or in foreign politics, because until we are totally independent on ourselves, we depend on other people. So we need to make sure, because this economy does not survive if we hit $7 gasoline. Mm-hmm. If gasoline is $7 a gallon, this economy can't survive. What do you think that does to food prices?
They skyrocket too.
Everything skyrockets
because everything has some
it's
sort of
based off of oil, whether
oil.
it's shipping or the actual products made from oil.
Yep.
So this is why we need to pay as of right now. Now, if Ron Paul, for somehow, some way, can get us energy independent and just dependent on our oil here in the country, then I can say, okay, well, we don't have to pay attention to as much as their oil over there. We still have to worry about Iran bombing us, with a nuclear bomb, but at least that's one less worry. So I don't know. Like, this is what Ron Paul has to realize. The world has to stabilize before we can stop worrying about it. There's no getting around it. So we also I have this clip of earlier debate this year between the Republican candidates. We'll play it and we'll come back and talk about it.
Would you support Israel and help Israel in such an attack?
No, I wouldn't do that. But there'd be good reasons, because I don't expect it to happen, because, the Mossad leader that just retired said it would be the stupidest thing to do in the world. And it's a big argument over in Israel. They're not about to do this. They've just polled 40 major experts on foreign policy here by the National Journal. Not one of them said there should be a unilateral attack on the sites in Iran. So that's not going to happen. And if it did, you're supposing that if it did, why does Israel need our help? We need to get out of their way. I mean, we interfere with them. We interfere with them when they deal with their borders, when they want to have peace treaties. We tell them what they can do because we buy their allegiance and they sacrifice their sovereignty to us. And then they decide they want to bomb something. That's their business, but they should, suffer the consequences. When they bombed the Iraqi missile site, nuclear site back in the 80s, I was one of the few in Congress that said it's none of our business.
All right, this is where I also disagree with him. I get what he's saying, that Israel needs to just handle themselves, and if they decide to bomb somebody, they should be on their own. Well, no, that's not how allies work. Israel needs to talk to us before they bomb somebody, because what they do affects us. Yeah. We like to hold up people who defend freedom, and Israel is one of those people that I mean, look at Jerusalem. They let Muslims, Christians, and Jews freely go in there and pray. And name one Arab country that allows that to happen. So we like to hold up people who hold up freedom. Yeah. We like to back them. So if we're going to be an ally with Israel, they have to check, just like we should check with them before we do something.
Yeah, I would say in all things that have to do with the military, we have to be on the same page with them. But I can see, as far as Obama a couple months ago, he was telling Israel they can't build here or you can't build there, and that when it comes to that Paul has a good point. We have to get out of that. We have to get out of there.
I'm saying when it comes to their foreign policy, they need to check with us, because everything affects us just like everything affects them.
Because everything is military, basically.
What
we have to be on the same
What we
page.
do over in the Middle East affects Israel, too. So that's why we need to check with them also. So that's how allies work. So, yes, you're right. When we shouldn't be telling, like Obama has been, telling Israel what they can and cannot do. But when it comes to their foreign policy, it affects ours, and vice versa. Yeah. All right, so that's enough on Ron Paul. We're done with that. It was just enough. I just had to dedicate a show to it because I think, like I said, I love Ron Paul, but right now I can't.
Not for president.
Not for president. Mm-mm. Not until he can actually give up a little bit on his foreign policy and tell me exactly what he would do in certain situations. You really don't get those kind of answers from him. But what we want to leave you with tonight is what we decided to leave you with a couple weeks ago, but we didn't really get to finish it all, was I'm sure some of you have heard it, but it's always great to revisit it. And it's Al Sharpton and his professional broadcasting skills. I mean, if you want to be a broadcaster, you need to look at Al Sharpton and what he does, or what he comes across on camera. I mean, he brings a special magic.
He's very professional.
Very professional. And it's uncanny, really. I don't think anybody can imitate it. Literally, I don't think anybody can imitate what I'm about to play for you.
Tonight is the measure of whether the country begins in the state of Wisconsin a national drive to push back, or whether we have
Here it comes.
more to go to build a movement of resistance. But resist we must, and we will much about that be committed.
What is that?
The night is never complete without an Al
Joe,
Sharpton
I'm
punch.
so hungry. So after the show, we
much.
must go get dinner
Much.
for we much
Resist.
enjoy, resist, must, me much,
Yes.
do, eat.
See, at that
Much?
point, you need to have a brain instead of just reading the
Well,
teleprompter.
This is why he's not a professional broadcaster. This is why I don't know how he got his own show. It's probably because it's just his politics on MSNBC. But this is where, as a professional broadcaster, you read. It could be a teleprompter where somebody typed in the wrong stuff. So this is where you go, all right, I need to ad-lib at the end of this. So I should know what I'm talking about, so I should be able to ad-lib. Well, he doesn't know. So he's just like, all right, I'm panicking. I'm just going to read very slowly what the prompter says, which apparently is we must resist much more, resist much, do, good night.
Kind of reminds me of Obama never had that bad of a gaffe, but
Yeah. So, all right, well, it's Saturday Night Live did a spoof on this, so we might as well play that going out on the show here. So let's play that.
Some sense. All right. When we come back, there's a national conspiracy.
He's looking at the wrong camera.
Sorry. There's a national conspiracy to keep this country in the hands of the privileged. But is there now a national movement to push back? It seems like it. For push back, we must, and we will much about that. Be committed to be. Talk to you.
Oh man, that's just great. So, all
never
right, well,
gets old.
It never does. It never does. All right, well, we appreciate you tuning into the Doug Karns program this week. We'll be back next week with an all-new show. For Joe Balcom, I'm Doug Karns. We'll see you next week.
Good night.